listeners. Do you dream of stepping onto the TEDx stage and sharing your ideas with the world? Well, now is your chance. I'm excited to announce the TEDx Quest Challenge. It's a 5-day journey designed to help you craft your TEDx talk and land your dream speaking gig in 2025. Starting on January the 13th, each day we'll release a new podcast episode packed with actionable insights to guide you from idea to application. Plus, there's bonus tools to support you and your journey. So you get access to the TEDx Speaker Readiness Checklist, a pitch template, and even a live Q&A with me. So if you're ready to make your dream a reality, sign up now using the link in the show notes and join the TEDx Quest Challenge. Let's get you one step closer to the TEDx stage. Welcome to the Words That Change Lives podcast, helping leaders, coaches, and small business owners to 10 times the impact of their message. Join us as we delve into the art of powerful language, enabling you to speak with unwavering honesty, communicate authentically, and create a lasting impression with every word. I'm just going to get straight into this one. Visibility. It is something that is very, very important whether you're a leader in an organization and you need to be visible to be seen as productive and credible and all of those, and influential and all of those sorts of things. And if you run your own business, it's pretty important too. And I didn't realize just how important it was when I left the corporate world, and I hid for a long time, but then I got over that and then was visible. And then over the years, faced many challenges that have made me shrink back, not want to be visible. I've had massive blockers to my visibility quite a few times over the 10 years I've been in business. And each of those times I've worked through them and been able to unblock myself. But what I want to say about this is it's not going to be a one-fix-all type of thing. There's lots of reasons why you might find it difficult to be visible online, on social media, on stages, at networking events, whatever that looks like to you. And there might be a number of reasons why. So in this episode, I'm going through the blockers, the common blockers to visibility, and what you can actually do about it. These are things that I've experienced myself, that I have helped my clients through many, many times. I've coached people in the wings of TEDx events and other events to overcome, and have also helped overcome when it comes to showing up on social media, which is a biggie. So here we go. The first is imposter syndrome. Now, we all know that imposter syndrome feels like being a kid wearing oversized shoes, trying to walk confidently while fearing others will notice you're stumbling. That's kind of what imposter syndrome feels like. It's that internal voice whispering, you don't belong here. Now, we know that that is your protector. It is your primitive system trying to protect you for perceived threats in the environment. When I was coaching people in the wings for the TEDx event a few years ago, I was helping them overcome this. They were saying things like, I don't belong here. This isn't for me. Who am I to speak up? Who am I to share my stuff? And it's just your internal protector. That's all it is. So the first thing to do is have compassion for this part of you that wants to protect you. And also to start where you are, knowing that mastery does come from practice, not perfection. So you may have feelings like, I need to know more, I need to do more before I can fully show up and be visible. Well, that comes from practice. That actually comes from showing up. And another really good strategy here is to reflect over everything you've achieved. I did this recently. I had a website update. Go check it out, helenpackham.com. It looks really snazzy. But this happened recently when I had to go through all of my stuff, all of my testimonials, all of my case studies. And going through that was a really good way of squashing that pesky imposter, I tell you. So it's a really good thing to just go back and reflect on what you've achieved. Imposter syndrome is part of you, but you can understand it, have compassion for it, and carry on anyway. The next thing that is a blocker to visibility is comparison with others. But the problem with comparison, it's that we're often comparing someone else's chapter 20 to our chapter 2. And what we don't see are the countless setbacks and failures, because people only really do majority report about their successes. Yes, we have more vulnerability now and visibility, we do, and we see more failures and we see more honesty. But when we get that pesky feeling, it's because we're comparing ourselves to the neighbour who's got their perfectly manicured garden, and we're feeling bad about our own. And, I use the garden analogy because I'm a rubbish gardener. But you haven't seen the years of hard work or mistakes or the team of gardeners behind the scenes. So, many influencers or coaches who seem like overnight successes, they have spent years building their audience or refining their message. It hasn't just happened overnight. So if you are just starting out, or if you're a little bit further along the line, it's okay. You can't compare yourself to others. I have done that many, many times, and it's just easy to do. You're on social media, you're seeing successes, but it's like comparing apples with oranges, because every path is different and everybody's doing their own thing with their own unique strengths and their own story. So instead of letting comparisons steal your joy, use it as fuel. This is what I do now. Look at others in your niche, not as competition, but as sources of learning or inspiration. And comparing your behind-the-scenes work to someone else's highlight reel doesn't give the full picture. Turn that frustration into fuel and think, well, what makes me unique, and how can I stay in my lane with this? Staying in your lane means you're laser focused on what you want to achieve, rather than looking left and right along the motorway and slowing down your process and your progress. The third is worrying about people like friends and family and judgments from people. And the thing is, it's natural to care about those close to us. And it's natural to care about what those close to us think. But often, their opinions might reflect their fears and not ours. So it's kind of like wearing a coat that doesn't fit you because someone you love insists it's the right one, and you feel uncomfortable, but you keep wearing it out of fear of letting them down. And you might have had friends or family who are subtly or not so subtly questioning why you're doing something that you do, or showing up in a certain way, or saying what you say, and they don't quite get it. And their judgments don't reflect your capability, but their discomfort is not yours either, right? So it's about really understanding to wear your own coat, one that fits your goals and your aspirations, and even if it's not what others think is best. So what others think of you is none of your business. What matters is how you feel about yourself and your work. And also having a clearing conversation. So say if you do have a keynote talk and it does require you to be vulnerable and it does require you to share a personal family story, tell someone. If you want to show up online and share a particular journey or story, tell them. Have a clearing conversation first. Let them know it's happening. And then you can show up without worry. The other thing that can block people from showing up on somewhere like LinkedIn is old colleagues, or, people that you used to work with and what they think. Well, what they think is none of your business. Stay in your lane, show up in integrity, and keep focused on what it is that you want to achieve. Being worried about what others think will slow you down. And I have learned this. I'm talking from experience here. I've done all of these things that I'm sharing with you. And another thing that's a biggie, and has been for me, because, like all of us, I've dealt with loss, divorce, and not all of us. I'm sure you might be in a very happy marriage, and that is brilliant. But in the last few years, I've been through health scares, lost my dad, divorce, my mum was pulling. And when those things happen, you don't feel like showing up, Life can be overwhelming, and it's hard to find the energy to show up when personal challenges or burnout kicking. And you've got to think of your energy like a battery, because you can't expect it to power everything non-stop without recharging. And social media is a high energy environment, and it can quickly drain your battery if you don't manage your output. So I have had many situations where I was juggling personal and professional pressures, and I didn't have the energy to show up. And so I found ways to still show up, even if it was smaller, even if it was more sustainable. And the big way that I did that was by setting up a kind of trickle charge strategy. So I have a machine now, a system where I create content in a systematic way. And then I document when I've got higher energy. So my content is created and scheduled across all of social media, and I do it in ways that feels good for me. So writing content feels good for me, writing emails and articles, because I can still share, but it's done in a different way. Doing this feels good. This is a good way for me to show up. And then the videos and things like that come when I've got the bigger sources of energy. And so video creation, I've just started doing again. And I'm doing that when I have the energy. I've slept well and I'm feeling good about myself, but I still do it. But it's just managing that energy. And I think that's really, really important. And another thing that paralyzes people and stops them from showing up is shame or fear of looking stupid. And again, this is a very primitive response to the environment, because when we were in caveman times, we were in groups and tribes, and actually putting your head above the parapet and putting yourself in the spotlight could cause shame. And so you avoided that, and then that prevented you from putting a foot out of line. And Brené Brown often talks about how vulnerability and shame are very intertwined. And one of her TEDx talks wasn't perfect. She was nervous. She stumbled over her words, and yet it became one of the most watched TED Talks of all time. Why? Because people connect with authenticity more than perfection. My TEDx talk, oh my God, so many mistakes. But how many people connected with me after that, and have done since? We don't need to fear looking stupid, because it's our vulnerability that will connect us to people. We know in a world where AI is writing lots of things and AI is replacing humans in online content, that it's the human connection that people like most. So mistakes are inevitable. I've had many, many moments of doubt, but I found that leaning into vulnerability rather than running from it actually built stronger connections with my audience. So that's a good one to remember. This next one is a biggie as well, though. And this is external validation by likes and engagement. Now, social media, we know, is designed to make us crave likes and engagement, as if those metrics define our worth and success. That is how it is designed. It is dopamine firing. It wants to keep us on the app as long as possible. And that is why likes and engagement are a big part of that. And what we do is we put our whole validation into likes. And that's just not the way to look at it, right? Imagine planting a tree and expecting it to grow instantly. So if you only judge its progress by how much it's grown each day, you'll be frustrated. Real growth happens slowly and beneath the surface. I've had many times over the years in my content creation, I would obsessively check things like that. And I equated engagement with success. But over time, I realized that the deep, meaningful connections happen off platform through emails, DMs, or conversations with clients. And I know that showing up consistently has led to those clients. Not everybody comments. Most people don't. They lurk, they watch, they observe, and then they make decisions and they reach out to you. So I really encourage you, if you are someone who is validated by likes and engagement, to measure your success differently by how much value you deliver, not by how much external praise you receive. I know it's hard because you've been trained and the algorithm has trained you to do that. However, it's much better to focus on consistency and message clarity, trusting that engagement will follow in time, and that even if you don't get what you want, people are still watching and they will reach out. And, well, perfectionism is probably the biggest blocker of all. And this is the need for everything to be perfect before taking action. So in my experience, and I work with a lot of leaders who have this as a driver, and it can be the dark side trait. So it can be something that's a strength. So perfectionism in peak is brilliant, but in overdrive, it can really go against us. And it's driven by fear. fear of judgment, fear of failure, or not being good enough. It's like trying to paint a masterpiece with a magnifying glass in your hand, obsessing over every tiny brushstroke while losing sight of the bigger picture. And so much so that you overpaint the picture. And the desire for everything to be flawless before hitting post can paralyze creativity and it can block action. Can you relate to this? Well, I can. And I got an analogy that helps explain this. Imagine you're building a sandcastle, but every time you spot a tiny flaw, you start over. So you never finish the castle because it's never perfect, even though no one would notice the small imperfections. And this is a huge blocker to visibility because, and I'll give an example, recently I started getting into video again, and it's taken me a good few months to just do it because I've got to have the right lights and I've got to have the right equipment and I've got to have this right and I've got to have that right and I've got to have the right background. But actually, really, I had things that were good enough. But there's a couple of things here. What I'm not saying is done is better than perfect in all instances, because sometimes you're not ready to just show up without things being perfect. I have been there many, many times. I have spent time blocking my action because I haven't got the right thing to feel confident to show up. But then you're missing opportunities. You're missing opportunities to be visible. So done is better than perfect is a good saying, but I also invite you to take a bit more of a mindful approach. So uncovering the blocks bit by bit is a really good strategy. What's really stopping you from taking action? Is it truly about quality, or is it rooted in fear of what others think? You can remove barriers, but recognize that not every barrier requires perfection to be removed. It's not about rushing through content creation, but learning to differentiate between necessary refinements and perfectionism that holds us back. So, for instance, improving audio quality can be a simple fix, but obsessing over every transition or word choice in a video may just be a form of procrastination. And a really good thing to do here is your good enough list. And a good enough list is a checklist of essential elements for content creation. So I'm talking mainly about showing up on social media here, but you can apply this to absolutely anything. It ensures the message is clear and engaging without the burden of perfection. So embrace each point on your list that is good enough and that can get better with practice. And then you can revisit and improve things over time. But nothing gets better if it never happens in the first place. And this is one of the most recent things that I have managed to overcome again in being able to show up on video again, which I'm loving. I used to love showing up on video all the time. But over various things happening, I just shrunk back, and it's easily done for all of the reasons I'm saying. I think the other thing to understand is that the online world is an emotional roller coaster. Social media can feel like a chaotic playground where the highs are exhilarating and the lows are pretty deflating. And this creates this sort of flip-flopping love-hate relationship. And the constant need to produce content and show up can lead to burnout. It is a bit like riding a wave in the ocean, where some days the wave lifts you high and you feel like you're soaring, and other days it crashes over you and you're left tumbling underwater. But the key is to learn to ride the waves without letting them control your emotional state. And over the years, and it has taken quite a long time, I have learned to detach from the emotional highs and lows of online engagement. And I've done that by setting very strong boundaries around when I'm using these sorts of things, when I'm going on social media, scheduling a lot of it, creating intentional content that aligns with my values. So instead of sort of chasing trends, I focused on what feels right for me. And you can do the same. You can set healthy boundaries. You might need to take social media breaks or schedule posts in advance. You are in control of your emotional engagement and not the platform. And when you remind yourself of that, then everything just feels better. Final thought here. I have many moments where I've shrunk back due to external pressures or internal doubt, but I have found the strength to show up consistently in a way that works for me and overcomes those blockers, even when it's hard. And it's the courage to keep going, to keep posting, to keep speaking, to keep showing up and to keep being visible is what will set you apart. It is a bit like building a muscle, like courage is like building a muscle. It grows stronger every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it. And with time, it becomes second nature. If this resonates with you, if you can relate to this in any way, please do get in touch. hello@helenpackham.com. You are not alone. This happens to us all. And I'm right here with you. See you next time. Thanks for listening to Words That Change Lives. Please rate, review and follow on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really means the world and helps me to reach more people so that we can all harness the power of our words and change lives for the better.